Bobbi Boudman here again. We're on number 7 on the list of back on August 9th. I wrote in the Conway Daily Sun inviting Glenn Cordelli to make this election just about dialogue and running on his record, and invited him to sit down. Glenn Cordelli has done no forums. He hasn't gone before the public in any way to answer questions. The Conway Daily Sun asked him to debate me. He refused it. Anyway, so I wrote a letter on August 9th in the Conway Daily Sun asking Representative Cordelli to do these facts, and I came up with 10 bills and votes just to get the ball rolling, and Mr. Cordelli answered me throughout the letter, name calling, whatever. Anyway, so we're on 7, and sponsored legislation to dissolve our school district. So we're going to look at that one, and here is Glenn Cordelli's response. Sorry, I should have started up at the top, answering me and name calling me. So we're on 7 now, and I'm going to read this. A little bit of word salad, so it's hard to read. Cooperative school districts, like our local school district, have been the source of legislation to fix problems and unfairness to small towns in these districts. My bill would have ended these cooperative districts in 5 years. We'll find out about that. And allow the towns to form new agreements. One example of the unfairness is the question of why Wolfeboro and Ossipee residents should have a vote for the Effingham school board representative. My legislation was intended to start a dialogue to find solutions to these cooperative school district problems. Okay, so I just want to bring up that this legislation was proposed before this specific issue was regarding Nate Williams, who ran, and he ran after this was proposed. But I will tell you, when he ran, I completely agree, and I got my number geek on and figured a way to make this more equitable in having school board representation, which, if you want, I'll sort of move towards that at the end. But let's just talk about Mr. Cordelli and dissolving the school district, because this bill is a disaster and would be not only horrible for us, but horrible for the other 42 districts that it would cause, 90 more school districts to be created. We have 117 towns in municipalities and school districts. However, some of them have the municipality within their own city because they're larger, like Concord. Concord doesn't oversee their own schools. They have a separate municipality for that. So anyway, 90 new organizations would have to be created, and where would our children go? But we'll talk about that in a minute. So he indeed did sponsor this. Here is the bill. And this was session 2022. So we'll just quickly talk about that 5 years, because he does not understand his own bills. So here's his name, Representative Cordelli. And oddly, Carroll County, Jonathan Smith also has his name on this bill to dissolve our school districts. This bill requires cooperative school districts to review and adopt dissolution plans prior to January 1, 2024, and repeals authority for all cooperative school districts on June 30th, 2025. So this bill, obviously, you would have to start by December 2022 if a governor did sign a disastrous bill like this. It would probably be signed by September. So that is not 5 years. That's 2.5 years. But okay, not a big deal. But the dissolving the school district is. So I just want to go down here and just where I've highlighted that you would have to dissolve all your your school buildings, and in our case in GWRSD, which I only want to talk about GWRSD right now, is that our shared buildings are in the town of Wolfeboro. So Wolfeboro, based on Mr. Cordelli's bill, would have to buy out all the other towns. So we would have to buy out the other towns. And in this bill, let's see if I can just find it really quickly. Here it is. In this bill, we would be responsible for and allow indebtedness of Wolfeboro up to 9.75%. Now, 9.75% of our land value, sorry, I have to grab a paper on this. Let me flip over to here. So 9.75% of our valuation, we are at $3,965,612,268. And if you took 9.75 of that, we are then sitting at $386,647,196.13. So that is basically saying Mr. Cordelli believes that the citizens of Wolfeboro can buy the other towns out up to $386 million. Now, the interesting part about that is it probably would come to more than that. Concord's building a middle school right now, and their value, so let's go back to his bill. It is fair market value, okay? So if you're looking at Concord Middle School building right now, and they're coming in at $150 million. So we've got to buy out a middle school, we've got to buy out a high school, we've got to buy out a tech center, and we've got to buy out an art center for our other towns. Now, when you look at it, currently, if we split this up by our administrative fees, Wolfeboro's at about 30% of what we pay administratively. So I would guess that's probably about what we own too. Let me just go through. Wolfeboro is 30.1919, Tuftonboro's 11.44, Ossepee's 28.14, New Durham's 16.44, Effingham's 10.57, and Brookfield is 3.72. So if we had to buy out that other 70% of the value on this, and if we went off the fact that, that's not even including all the chairs in there, all the tables, the kitchen equipment, the tech center alone, the welding shop is, I don't know, I think that's worth $1 million or something more than that. Anyway, so if we look at all that, just based on that one number of that $386 million, that tax rate for a Wolfeboro citizen who would be taxed at, we'll say the average home, right, median price home right now being $400, we'll say it's at about that, comes out to that person needing to pay $28,527.13. So that's just one median household having to pay that share to buy the other towns out. So now if you're going to force that, and that, of course, I didn't go through buses, I didn't go through all the other shared expenses we have. But when you look at that and you put that on the taxpayers of Wolfeboro, and then you have Ossipee, Tuftonboro, Brookfield, New Durham, and Effingham now needing a middle school, needing a tech center, needing a high school, they have to buy back into Wolfeboro. So we're no longer educating our children at the current rate they're coming in at, because obviously we built these buildings. I mean, I know we built them just a few years ago, and we've had bonds we're paying on them, but we did it collectively. And we already had a basis on some of those buildings, so it wasn't from scratch. But anyway, this bill's a disaster. This is all about dismantling our public education. I mean, that's really what all of this comes down to. it's about dismantling our public education. It's about coming up with ways to divide us, divide and conquer us. Well, let me just tell you, I know we're unified. I know we're a regional school district, but my son, his best friends are all most of them are from Ossipee. The majority of his best friends and his friends are from Ossipee. We're just, I guess Glenn Cordelli doesn't understand because he doesn't have the community we have. And we have community, and we need to vote for our community, and we need to vote on November 5th. But again, I said I'm going to kind of go down a geek train here. But first, I just want to, I'll just click on a couple more links. That was our revenue, New Hampshire DRA bill. So most of Glenn Cordelli's bills, if you go in and you look up his bills, most of the testimony when people testify on his bills, they are opposing his bills. I mean, every once in a while you have a few people who jump in, but he's had some bills where, I mean, like 1,000 people have signed on to oppose, and it's like 2 people sign on to that they approve the bill. So, yeah, I mean, his bills are kind of out there and trying to dismantle our school. I mean, hopefully the legislature never takes this guy seriously, but why should we even try anymore? Anyway, so that's how many oppose this bill. I'm just going to click this link. I'm not going to put my picture, but if you go to the House Education hearings on any of his bills, it's interesting to watch the hearings because usually it's garbly-goop, and then the educated people get up there and talk about how harmful his bills are, and then sometimes there's a couple people who will get up there that they support but don't understand why they're supporting what they're supporting. And then I just want to talk about that election, because like I said, I did kind of go down the geek train with this, because Nate Williams is right. Effingham voted for him, and other towns voted for him too. However, if you're going to make the argument that other towns voted for you, but then 2 of the towns voted overwhelmingly, they have the larger population. So I went through and came up right after that election with a way that we needed to do a warrant article, or if it's in state code, which I have not looked up to see if this is in state code, but if it's in state code and you elect me, I can change it and write actually legislation that would work forward on this. But anyway, let me find my old thing here. So I ran numbers when this happened in a bunch of different ways to do this. And the most equitable way that I could come out with, especially with the at-large seats. So I guess before I talk about these numbers, maybe I should talk about the at-large seats. So on our school board, each town gets a school board member, and then we have 3 at-large seats. And so conceivably, Effingham could have 4 representatives on our school board. And then I'm sure maybe people would be sort of shouting the other way that they, that they have too many. I mean, I don't know, but it's right. It's not equitable in any way. So what I did, and I would just want to show, I'm sorry it's sideways, but this is the way the school system put it up. But we pay through our administrative fees right here. So let me put my thing back up, sorry. And I'm turning my head looking at it. So we pay, here's our administrative fee breakdown basically. So you can see Wolfeboro's at the 30 that I said, 11, 28, 16, 10, and 3. So that's where these numbers are coming from, just so you understand. And then let me go back to numbers and click that. So when I looked at Nate's numbers and I looked at Jim Pittman's numbers and I pulled them up and looked at the discrepancy and just looked at Effingham, that Nate did win his town, and then he didn't win Brookfield, but he barely won New Durham, but he won it, and then he won Ossipee, but he did not win Tuftonboro and he did not win Wolfeboro. And I looked at that, and after Nate came to the next school board meeting and pointed it out, I just really got to thinking, and I ran the numbers, and I ran them like 15 different ways, like adding them all up, adding up the different things we could do. And I feel like the representative on the school board, when you're in that town, your vote should be at 100%. But the other towns should be voting based on the percentage that they're contributing to the school district overall. So it may be that originally, Jim Pittman got 649 people, but after you take the percentage for the vote, it brings it down to the 196 people roughly. But the town stays at the 100% vote. Now, the interesting part about this is we could do this a couple ways to make it fair, that all three of the at-large seats are also done with the percentages. This is Effingham's percentage down here, right here. I just have it up here, 100, because I was calculating out Nate's numbers. But you can see if you're only getting the vote of your percentage, Nate actually would have won. And is that more equitable? I guess we can decide, but I think it is. Like I said, I'm still bothered by this. However, if we went off that model, there would not be 3 at-large seats. And the reason why there could not be 3 at-large seats is because, again, it would be inequitable if that you had Effingham with 4 taking up 4 seats. So you'd have to do the seats on the board the same way. So, for example, Wolfeboro would get 3 seats, Tuftonboro 1, Ossipee would get 3 seats because they're over the threshold of that. It would have to be up to that, 2.75 number, which I'm probably in the weeds right now. But they would get 3, then New Durham would get 1, Effingham would get 1, and Brookfield would get 1. So that gives you your whole board, and then we could have 1 at-large seat that would also be voted on based on percentages. Anyway, that's just, again, in the weeds, and I probably didn't need to keep talking about this when you talk about dissolve a school district. But I'm talking about it because it was in Cordelli's comment. So, but it was disingenuous in Cordelli's comment because the election with Nate Williams and with Jim Pittman happened after after Cordelli's bill to dissolve our school district was already in there. He put it in September, and the election didn't happen till March, and actually I think happened later because I think Effingham waited to vote that year. So it could be that was the year that they voted later, but don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. They may have voted in March. I'm not sure it was either March or, but at the end those were the numbers. So there we go again. Glenn Cordelli did try and dissolve our school district, and it wasn't a 5-year buffer. It would have been about 2.5 years, and it would cost the average person a tax bill of $28,000 on top of their normal tax bill. And that's the median house at $400,000. So obviously, if it's $1 million house, they'd have a $71,000 tax bill because the rate would be about $71. Anyway, so okay, so please vote. We like each other. We like to stay a school district, and we need to protect our school district from dissolution from Mr. Glenn Cordelli and Jonathan Smith from dissolving our school district. So make sure you vote. if you're voting in District 5, maybe do a write-in. Just send Jonathan Smith a message that we don't want to dissolve our school district, but that's your call. My biggest issue is right now is Glenn Cordelli and his disastrous legislation. That's going to rip us apart. So please vote on November 5th. Please vote for Bobbi Boudman, and let's keep our community together. Thanks. Bye.